Yeah, it's all kicking off, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to someone about this that this podcast is inadvertently like you could put it in a museum as a time capsule for just two regular dudes who just so happen to like every week it's like another major world event happened that I've never seen before.
Yeah, it just
Like
our layman's take on it.
yeah, the casual football podcast, which I mean there was a war breaking out last week when we missed an episode.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If we had done this every week like we had planned, it would have been a good time capsule because we just like get too drunk some weeks like we just skip it.
At some
Terrible, terrible.
stage, historians found a war broke out somewhere around February and March 2022,
This is the
roughly.
only podcast that survives. No. Yeah, it's mad here because as you know, everyone here's an army man.
Mm, of
Because of
course.
they still have conscription here,
Mm.
which for the last almost 100 years, no problem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You do your service. It's a piss take. No, you're never actually gonna be called up for war, but we're pretty close. So there's a palpable sense of doom here amongst
Oh, lovely.
men aged 18 to 45 who fear the call up.
Of
This
all
is
the
like
times for you to be there, like, I'm on my holiday.
this is literally like being 5-0 down against Man City and being brought on. It's like, in the rain. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to get near them. Um, there's a man here who I was talking to because everyone's talking about it. Like,
Mm.
there's rumors, not vicious, but like, worried rumors flying around. There's a NATO base like a half an hour from here. Um, and NATO is to say American base. Let's call it spade a spade. And like, there's people like saying, yeah, there's nuclear weapons on that base, man. There's nuclear weapons on that base. All these kind of like nervous whispers going around. Because like, if you remember your junior cert history, one of the major sticking points of the Cuban Missile Crisis was that the Americans had missiles in Turkey,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
like a stone's throw from here. So like it could make sense that they would have a NATO base with nuclear weapons just in case hidden here. So
You will be so raging if you get annihilated in a nuclear explosion while on holiday in Greece.
yeah, will you
Instead of
continue
being
the podcast?
ringing your Zoom every week. He's not picking up. I haven't talked to him in ages.
No, like well, obviously once you get the news, or would you like continue on with somebody else? Would you go? Would you start hosting the show with like
Solo,
a
yeah.
second mic? Oh, just
Yeah.
solo, just solo.
Me on a
Yeah,
delay talking to
yeah.
myself.
But yeah, I was talking to a guy here. He said in 1995 he was studying abroad.
Mm.
And he was loving it. It was going great. He started working at a job then, but in the back of his mind, he was like, "Oh, I have that army service that you have to do. You can delay for
Yeah.
however many years if you're living abroad or you're in education. You can delay as long as you want."
Mm.
But he's like, you know what? I'm probably going to move back to Greece eventually, so I'm just going to do it now. But like, army man is a young man's game. You don't want to be doing basic
Yeah.
training at 35. Better do it at 25.
Yeah.
So he was doing this, and he's like, right, quit the job, head back, and I'll just get this out of the way in 12 months, and then get the life back on track. So he comes back to Greece, joins the army on September 11th, 2001. Yeah,
He's worse luck than you do.
Curb Your Enthusiasm music plays. You know what I mean? Like he said, he was absolutely shitting it. But the story gets better because you know where he was studying abroad?
Where is that?
New York. Yeah. So he said at the time he was shitting it because he's like, oh, fuck, I just joined the army when World War III broke out. I mean, as you know, there was no World War III. It was an inside job, Tower 7,
Yeah, yeah,
jet
yeah,
fuel,
yeah.
steel beams. We all know,
Yep,
we all know
yep,
the story.
yep.
But where he's working in New York, he was 4 blocks away from the towers. So that would be even more scary, to be honest, than joining the army. Yeah.
He's really had a tough week that week.
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely like a nervous energy here, but I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, it'd be grand. It'd be grand.
No, honestly, that is nonsense. Nonsense. All nonsense. But listen, I've been on that road before. somebody talking nonsense. Like, what would you say? Just why are you talking nonsense about us? Why are you talking rubbish?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a No Nonsense podcast with Cahill and Will. Better late than never. Never late is better.
Yeah. And boy, are we late.
That used to be the motto on the show. Not anymore.
No.
I don't know why I'm doing a Tucker Carlson impression.
You were talking like Alex Jones intro.
Yeah.
Fucking show.
Just under Trump, we had 2 episodes a week. But Joe Biden wants you to think that 1 episode a week is fine. Yeah. When did that become fine? What's going on? What's happened to this podcast? No. Yeah, just a little quote there from a popular recording artist, Drake. You might have heard of him. Look, I'm going to hold my hands up. My bad on the last week. What a week to let it slip, Will, to let the standards drop. But I think we're in Phil Neville, Inter Miami territory now. 26 Cup Finals. Whatever the rest of the season goes, we're going to be consistent with it now.
Every week.
No excuses. 1 episode a week. I mean, we're getting into the Champions League kind of nitty gritty now as well. So we'll talk about that later on the show. That's also kicking off. So it's going to be good. From now on, we're going to be really consistent with it. No excuses.
I promise.
And, yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And,
for sure, if I was a listener and I heard like the big montage at the end of the last episode, I would think they're never coming back.
Well, especially because we missed a week as well. Yeah. I don't know, man. But look, we have a jam-packed episode this week. We have Bandwagon Wheel. We're going to lead Bandwagon Wheel, folks, and I'll tell you why in a second. We'll lead with that. Then we got the Cup Final. We got Abramovich. The Abramovich year is over for some reason.
Which just all of a sudden.
We'll try and wrap our heads on that the best way we know how.
People are clamouring for what's the lad's takes on the situation in Russia.
Yeah, explain it. Break it down,
I get all my
Piece by
news
piece.
strictly from the No Nonsense podcast.
Yeah. We've got, Bielsa, we got Frank Lampard, and Will's going to tell you all why this is a pro-Russian podcast. A little later on. You sure are, Will. We discussed this. You discussed this off, Mike. Maybe, we'll see. But yes, we have for a Tramadose, the bandwagon wheel. I'll just, I'll explain the bandwagon wheel just, for any new listeners that might be, coming on board now. Strange time to come on board, but maybe you are.
This is the podcast I've chosen to get into today.
They heard season 2 was just kick off. I mean, season 1 was so good. Season 2 is where you got to get on. Yes, Bandwagon Wheel, our only segment on the show where we pick a country and then we put all the teams of that country's top flight into a wheel, spin the wheel, and we get a team picked out to us. And we support that team for the year to show the kind of the madness of football fandom and why, following a team abroad like we do with, Man United and Arsenal, that kind of stuff. So this year we picked Greece, and the team that the wheel gave us was Atramitous, a little known, some would say a shitty team in Greece.
It's a pretty shitty team in Greece.
In Athens, to be specific.
Not us, we wouldn't say that.
No, never. And we were so good at it that they offered me a job and I became the sporting director of Atramitous. And that's why I'm based over in Greece right now. So look, Will, good news and bad news, right? Yeah. We'll start with the good news. 2 wins on the bounce. Will.
Great news.
It's happening. We're doing it. We are out of relegation right now. We're out of relegation.
Who even needs to hear the bad news?
We got two wins on the bounce there. Koulibaly is now the 3rd top scorer in the league. He's going for that golden boot.
How would you manage that?
He's been banging the goals. He's the one. It's his goals going to keep us up if we do stay up. We're out of the bottom 2 and into the bottom 3rd team, but it's only 2 that get relegated, right? And that, I think, brings on to the bad news. So we got a message here from a fan. You might know him, Will. Colin Stewart.
I do, yeah.
I
Football
would say a friend,
aficionado.
I'd say a friend first, a housemate to you second, and then probably a listener third. And now he's a contributor to the show, 4th, I guess.
Well, actually,
So,
legacy listeners might remember way back, he was a contributor to the show before. He was the first ever dream we read out on the podcast.
Yes. I don't know what episode it is. Maybe you can go back
Well,
and
it's
find
probably
it.
like, it's early, definitely, because like, what if we put Stu's dream on it?
Well, anyways, Stu writes, I have some dreadful news on how the Greek Super League does its relegation playoff. It's a league split where the bottom 8 teams go into their own mini league, basically, with their points from the regular season carrying over. So your beloved Atramutos will have another 7 games after the regular season ends. After that, then the bottom team gets relegated, and the second bottom goes into a survival playoff with the team that finishes second in Division 2. So I was completely wrong. I completely led the listeners astray. I listen, I said his word in the street. My Greek is obviously terrible. I don't know what he was saying to me. I totally misinterpreted what he said. And someone who wasn't even here could find out what was happening before I did. So thank you, Colin, for clearing that up for us. So that's how it works, Will. The leagues get split up into 2 different leagues, and we just play off. They would play each other once, I think. Oh no, we play each team once. So it'll be 8 teams in the bottom. We play them all once. But the good news is we're on a tear right now. Yeah. And we're out of the bottom 2, which means we're safe. But if we were to fall back into either the last spot, we'd be relegated immediately, and the second last spot, a playoff between the team coming up.
No, I want that.
Which is rough for the team coming up, honestly, that you win the division and then you're like, you have to fight your way for the worst team coming down or the second worst team coming down. I mean, it's, tough but fair, I suppose. If you're good enough for this league, you got to be Atramutos.
It makes a lot more sense than the loser playoffs we had originally envisioned, where you could lose the game, you can lose as many as you like as long as you win the last one. So it was like, why would you bother at all until that game?
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, that's literally how the NBA playoffs play.
Yeah,
you could be the 8th best team and win it. I don't think it's ever happened before, but in theory, that's how it could work. I mean, there's more than 3 games, obviously, but still, I thought, that makes sense. Obviously, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Because we were talking about the last episode, the episode before, we were like, why does anyone care after a certain point in the league? Once it's like, all right, I'm going down into the playoffs, I'll just relax now. Well, that's why, because you can be relegated.
Yeah, you can be easily relegated. So it's bad news in a way that it's, we're not as safe as we thought we were. But it's good news in that we're going in the right direction. We're on the way up.
Yeah. Good time for the Cougars.
Koulouris is hitting the form just at the right time. Again, he's been good all season, to be fair to him. I think he has 17 call-ups for the Greek national team already. So he's not, he's no slouch. People are aware of the threat of Koulouris. He still scores. So we're going to need him to score a few more goals in the next 7 to 8 games. I think we have 1 or 2 more games left in the regular season.
I think it's 1 more regular game left, yeah.
Yeah, but like I say, good time to hit form. So look, everything has changed. Everything we knew about the Greek league is completely wrong. But the way it's shaken out, we're still in a good position. So we're confident. Chris Coleman's going to get out of this one, man.
Surprising they didn't tell you that when you took the job.
It is. Well, again, I was just kind of so happy to be. I just a dream come true, to be there. I probably spaced out for some of the introductory kind of. I guess they probably assumed I knew as well.
Might have just thought language barrier too. Every time you were like, "Why bother? It's the loser playoffs anyway." They were like, he probably means the league part.
Yeah. I mean, look, lost in translation. Yeah. Now we know. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's bandwagon wheel. Starting off with that. The big news. Well, one of the big games happened during the week that we kind of missed. The cup final, Carabao Cup final, dominated by Manchester City in the last 4 years. Was it in a row they won it?
I think so. Yeah.
They usually beat somebody who had no business being there, to be honest.
I remember a Southampton final once or twice, things like that.
West Ham maybe were in a final, I think.
Yeah.
I'm wrong on that. This year, Chelsea and Liverpool, 2 teams, one going really well, another team with loads of really good players. And Chelsea always feel like a big game club. Like they could be not going well in the league, like complete fallout in the dressing room, manager on the way out, and then like it's a final and Drogba's going to get a header. He's going to score. There's nothing you can do. And this is, I don't know, was this like the best 0-0 you've ever seen?
100%. Easily. There was like 5 goals in it.
It was unbelievable. I mean, poor Mason Mount, he hasn't had the best season. He had a few chances, like
Yeah,
shoulda,
one in
coulda,
particular.
didn't, you know.
One in particular where he pretty much had an open goal. I think. I think he might have been 1-on-1 with the keeper. I think he slammed it off the post.
Yeah, I mean 1-on-1 with Queevy and bloody Keller. You know, put some respect in his name, Will. You know.
Yeah, what a game he had. Again, any word back on the 2 goalkeeper rule for international football? Because
it's pending. It's pending. Yeah.
We would be laughing. We'd be flying it.
Although the way he took that penalty, you know, and all the talk was, he used to play in the field. I mean, hey, he or Brazuna, one of them could be, you know, that sitting player in midfield spraying passes. Surely one of them. We got to figure it out, though. I mean, it's the worst problem to have. Like 2 right backs, we can figure it out. 2 strikers, even, you know, 2 up front, big man, little man. 2 goalies, there's no room. I mean, there's literally only
it's international football. We play like 5 games.
So yeah, I mean that was kind of the story of it. Did you hear Klopp after the game and Klopp and Keller after the game?
No, I don't think so.
Jurgen, I think you said after your semi-final win against Arsenal, Queeving Kelleher will be my goalkeeper at Wembley, but even you couldn't have imagined how it would end.
No, of course not. Look, I think even in professional football, there should be space for some sentiment, to be honest. So when he's a young boy, we ask him to do a lot. He gets the competition, starts playing, and then in the final I tell him, no, you don't play. I'm 2 things, a professional football manager and a human being. And a human being won this time, and that's why it's so nice that it pays off. He deserves it. When we told Ali that he will not play, we have at the AXA training center, we have a wall at the goalkeeper area where all goalkeepers are on who won something. When we told him not play, I said, oh great, if we win it, we can put Queeve on it as well. So that's exactly how it should be, absolutely great.
And Harvey Elliott as well scored a big...
What a nice man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so like, that's the thing. It's like another classic Klopp quote, like, you know, human being versus football manager. Yeah, and the human being, won. Unlike Thomas Tuchel, Mr. Numbers guy, Thomas Tuchel.
Dork.
The inhumane. I mean, first of all, it's like he drops Kepa, even though Kepa was the Cleveland Keller of this was his competition. They get all the way to the finals. Like, Mendy's probably one of the best keepers in the world, so I'm going to play him instead of you because I want to win this one. Because Will Burn reckons I'm going to sack by the season, and Cahill really needs the points in the absolute board. So
he needs this.
We got to win this one for him. And then he's like, but also in terms of numbers, you save more penalties, so you're out. So like, first of all, you don't get to start the final, and then we get to blame you when we lose the final.
I mean, it was like as soon as it went to the like sudden death in the penalties, after everyone scored them all, I was like, it's the Europa League final again. The only one missing is a keeper.
You called it in your head, yeah?
100%, because it's the way it goes, isn't it? Because you know the rule where keepers can't move off the spot or off the line. That makes it so hard to save a penalty. And then when you have to do it like fucking 10 times in a row, as soon as you miss like 8 of them, you're like, well, I'm not going to save the next one. It's just going to get harder and harder. Like, and then it was almost like the pressure it was less with each player coming up, because it's like, just hit it anywhere, it will go in. Like, roll it under Kepa. He's not saving any of them today.
Yeah, it's a good point actually, because it's something people used to say before is like, it's 11 yards out. Like, professional footballers, how do you not kick it in? It's like, because the goal used to close the gap to at least 3 yards. And they were like 6'6", wingspan of 8 feet.
Yeah, you can't just go from like a dead stop to diving into the top corner. That's impossible.
Yeah, so I mean, it was never really 11 yards, but now it is actually 11 yards, and they are professional footballers, so they'd score more often than not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, do you feel bad for Kepa or Mendy?
Kepa. Mendy got away with it because he's like raging, but you know, no one's giving out about Mendy on fucking Twitter, I'm sure.
No, but like, I think Mendy had a great game. Like, Mendy made so many saves. He was hot. He was in form. He took out an in form. It's like a striker who's scoring goals and you take him off with a penalty shootout. It's like, why? No, you'd never do that. But the goalie who was making loads of saves is in good form anyways, has just won a competition on penalties. They have combinations. But look at Kepa's numbers.
It's overthinking it, definitely.
Yeah.
But that was what happened in Europa.
Sorry.
That was what happened in the Europa League, where people were like, sub Henderson on, De Gea hasn't saved a penalty in years. But it doesn't work like that, though, because it's like, you can't just spring it on a player as well. Like, you're in for the penalty shootout for the cup final. That's tough as well. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's because every point to the Super Cup, it worked in the Super Cup, you know, when Kep won, but like equally, Queen Keller didn't get fucking near any of them. Like, I know he scored the last one, but he didn't get near any of them either. So like, I think before, I mean, the one that has been brought up, I think because it's the only one it's ever worked, was when they brought on Tim Krul, when Louis van Gaal brought on Tim Krul.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the reasons he got the Man United job. Like, this guy's
that was
a genius.
that was my thoughts at the time. It's like, we're going to
Yeah.
win everything. Did you see that substitution?
Yeah, and not that we don't know of Louis van Gaal's, you know, resume before 2014, but everything is so recency bias. You know what I mean? Exactly. People want to see something that happened today. That's why we should hire him. Yeah. And that was one of the big reasons. But like, has it worked since? Like, I guess there's a psychological element to like, oh, he's the shot stopper, you know. But I mean, if you can't move the line, the psychological element doesn't really matter. Like, because if you hit it hard enough in the right spot, again, as a professional footballer, it'll probably go in.
Yeah.
And you know, the only person who missed was the goalie, who just looked like he was kicking the ball out. He just like leaned back straight up into the stands.
He was freaking out too, because he took no run up at all. Whistle blew, his foot was already hitting the ball. He was like, get it over with.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to hear what Keller said after the game? It was
Absolutely,
a very Irish young lad interview. He was like, just fucking hit it, man. I don't know. I was thinking, you know,
get up.
Yeah, like it's a mad one. I thought I'd save one. I got close to a few, and then when it came down to me, I didn't even think I scored the winning penalty. I forgot we actually, like, I scored the winning one. So now, listen, all the penalties from the lads were class, so I was just happy to score.
You used to be an outfield player, didn't you, up to about 15, 16? Did you channel your youth when you took your penalty?
No, I think it was more hitting up.
What was it like? Because the penalties were of such a high standard.
Yeah, no, obviously. You think I got close to a few, got a hand on a few, but like you say, all the penalties, to be fair, were very high quality, so thankfully we were just able to win.
It was an amazing 2 hours of football in Everton flow. Did you ever feel you had the moment where you were going to go and win it?
Well, I thought we had scored when we got that goal. It was obviously disallowed. They had a few disallowed as well, so I think, to be fair, over the whole game, a draw was a fair result, to be fair.
And in terms of
Very nice.
Yeah, very wholesome. Again, from our Irish perspective, anyways, you know, you can put your Liverpool bias or whatever, Man United bias, whatever it is, but, you know, it's like, yeah, we're going to win the World Cup. It's happening.
Finally, about time.
So yeah, no, I mean, nice to see Queeve there getting his dues. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for World War III, Will, I think the Tuchel sacking probably would have happened by now.
And that,
but
you know, most people were like, "What does this mean for the world or the economy?" Or like, is this going to affect me? I thought, my absolutes. What about Tuchel?
I think Thomas Tuchel could literally sleep with Roman Abramovich's wife, and like, I have something else going on. I can't deal with that right now.
I'm busy. I can't explain why.
Yeah, I mean, no one's talking about it, but there's never been a safer Chelsea manager in the history of the Abramovich era.
Yeah.
Like, he is going nowhere.
Abramovich is not going to watch a Chelsea game for the rest of the season. He has bigger fish to fry.
He does. And I mean, if you've been living under a rock, maybe you haven't heard. Well, I'll read the Abramovich's statement he left in Chelsea. I think he spoke more in the last week than he has his entire more statements and interviews and stuff.
Because that was the thing. He was like a shadowy figure. It's like, he's probably bad news, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I'll read it out. It's very absolute in its words. I would like to address the speculation in media over the past few days in relation to my ownership of Chelsea FC. As I have stated before, I have always taken decisions with the club's best interest at heart. In the current situation, I have therefore taken the decision to sell the club, as I believe this is in the best interest of the club, the fans, the employees, as well as the club's sponsors and partners. The sale of the club will not be fast-tracked, but will follow due process. I will not be asking for any loans to be repaid. This has never been about business nor money for me, but about pure passion for the game and club. Moreover, I've instructed my team to set up a charitable foundation where the proceeds from the sale will be donated. The foundation will be for the benefit of all the victims of the war in Ukraine. This includes providing critical funds towards the urgent and immediate needs of victims, as well as supporting the long-term work of recovery. Please know that this has been an incredibly difficult decision to make, and it pains me to part with the club in this manner. However, I do believe this is in the best interest of the club. I hope that I will be able to visit Stamford Bridge one last time to say goodbye to all you in person. It has been a privilege of a lifetime to be part of Chelsea FC. I am proud of all our joint achievements. Chelsea Football Club and supporters will always be in my heart. Thank you, Roman. I mean, there's not much room for, will he sell? Like, he's selling it. It's done. It's over.
He's out of there. Yeah.
He's gone. I mean,
he's
so fast.
Basically like, I have got to get out of here. Don't worry about the loans.
Yeah, keep the change. I'm gone. I mean, it's there's a lot in that though. Like, there's a lot of like the loans is the first one. I mean, is it 1.5 billion? It's been reported this week that he's owed. That's how much he's put into it and not paid back. I think it's like not like out of his wallet. Like, I think it's like a parent company type thing that he also won't. Like, technically he's owed, but he's like, don't worry about that.
No one owes me anything.
And then there's the fund. Then there's kind of the and by the way, I will be helping the Ukrainians. So if no one buys off me, you're not hurting me, you're hurting the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
Which is the real victims here, not me, the oligarch.
Not just the Ukrainians, victims of the war in Ukraine. Both sides.
Yes. Yeah, the foundation would be the benefit of all victims of war in Ukraine. All lives matter in this conflict. And then he said as well, he's like, the club will not be fast tracked, but will follow due process.
But you know, quick enough. It's
like desperately trying to say, I'm not desperate to sell. You sound like you are. No, I'm not going to fast track it. It's like, well, it sounds pretty fast tracked to me. I mean, you've been here for years, and
you decided yesterday.
Yeah,
that's fast tracked. It doesn't matter like the process from now. These things are normally like you hear about them years in advance. Like, oh, he's thinking maybe it's time. It was like a week ago. There was nothing. A few days ago, I don't know if you saw, he stepped down from his role and gave stewardship of the club to like some staff members,
the trustees who didn't want this,
who didn't even know or want it. So like, I think then he was like, maybe if I do that, I can just kind of sneak back after a while. No one will know.
Yeah.
But then the trustees were like, what's going on? And he's like, fuck it, sell it. I don't need it.
Well, they're talking about when in the House of Commons, like they're bringing up his name like in public, which he hates. Like, he does not want that publicity at all. He was like, this is getting too real for me. This is not what I signed up for. But I suppose we say it's kind of out of nowhere, but when I was thinking about it, do you remember in 2018 when he was denied the visa?
Yeah.
To work there, and then he got Portuguese citizenship instead. He got a few others, and they cancelled the stadium rebuild, which was meant to be like $1 billion into the London. At that point, I was like, oh, this could be it then. Like, he's not going to, like, if you can't live there, if you can't go to the games, if you have to get a visa every time to go to the game, like, he's not going to bother. And then remember, he sold Hazard. Like, it was like Hazard just went for nothing. I was like, oh, this is getting wound up. This is over.
Yeah, maybe we don't need Hazard then if you don't need me.
It looked like he was getting ready he was selling off the assets, and then it was like, fuck the stadium, fuck the best players. Like, and at the time, like, it's hard to think of Hazard now as like a fat little lazy man, but like in his prime, like, he was. Yeah. People are talking like he has all the ability of Messi. If he can like put it together, he's as good as anybody. And he just sold them. Like, yeah.
And when they were selling them, it was like, how can we ever recover from this?
Yeah, and he was like, I don't care. But what happened after 2019, Will?
To Abramovich or Hazard?
To the world, man. Global pandemic.
Oh, of course.
I remember no one had any money except for the guy who had all the money, Roman Abramovich.
Yeah, I'm back.
I mean, the best time to buy up all the properties when no one else could buy it. I mean, you know, they bought Timo Werner, who Liverpool were after Timo Werner, and that's like, I bet we can pay more for him. Turns out
they had the ban as well, so it was an extra year of money right in time for no one else's money. You have 200 million from last year just ready to go. So yeah, it seems mad to spend like 250 million in the summer and then like 2 years later be like, I'm out of here. No reason. Like, I don't think he wants this.
So the pandemic came and he spent all that money and then they won the Champions League. And it was like, well, maybe I will stick around. Maybe, you know, I can actually ride this out if we're going to, you know, win all of this again, if we're the richest team in town.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, things change. Today's prices are not yesterday's prices, you know. It's all going kind of a bit tits up for, I mean, the oligarchs, like, I think everyone knew it wasn't a good thing to have, you know, all, like, do you remember the movie Rock and Roller?
Yeah.
The Guy Ritchie film. Anyone hasn't seen in 2008's Rock and Roller? It rules. It fucking rules.
Yeah.
Like I said, that was 2008, and there was like a very clearly based on Roman Abramovich bad guy in that film who owned a football club in London. Like, I think it's one of those things like, well, like they literally own like most of the world. So what are we going to do? Like, we don't like it, but we can never get them out. Like, it would take something drastic to get them out. And this has happened, and I think people have been waiting the long grass. Like, okay, now is the time to fucking turn them, sanction them, get them out.
Hit them hard now.
Hit them out when you can. Well, strike while iron is hot, and I think this has been coming a long time. People have just been waiting for the chance to get rid of them. And honestly, it'll be the same with the Saudis.
Yeah,
like
so. Yeah, they'll go too far one day to where England are like, actually, please stop that. We're not happy with that anymore.
Not even that. Like if there was if it was the opposite, say Saudi Arabia invaded Ukraine or the United Arab Emirates and like sanction them, get them out, because you know it's one of those things like, you know, it's bad. Everyone knows it. Everyone appreciates. Yeah, the people who own Newcastle are not good dudes. People who own Man City, they're sports washing. They're trying to make things good, but like they have more money than everybody, so there's nothing you can do. But if you can say, oh, we can sanction them now, get them out. I think that's happened to the oligarchs. See, there was like, there's a yacht from, I think the guy who's connected to Everton. He was, they seized his yacht, the French authorities, as he was fleeing to the Maldives, the non-extradition Maldives. So like, they're literally like rounding them up and bringing them to town square kind of stuff. So I think it's been coming a long time. Just people waiting for their chance, and you know they're so rich and powerful. There's very little you can do until World War III breaks out, literally. So
it's interesting with the sports washing stuff, because I did see a lot this week of like people, Chelsea fans, being like, whatever he does in his private life is none of my business. We'll never have a better owner who loves the club like him. It's like, well, that's the point.
Yeah, I mean, Abramovich is weird in that, like, obviously the sports washing is what the United Arab Emirates doing, or Saudi Arabia. Like,
that's like a specific thing that they outline that, like, yeah, that works. That's why we do it. His is more mysterious.
I mean, I guess it was never about the money. Clearly, he's owed 1.5 billion. It was a passion project from the least passionate man I've ever seen in my life. I mean, you ever see him at games clapping, and he can't clap even. It's like this weird, like, oh, what, am I meant to be happy about this? What do we clap? Oh, that's interesting. It's like the story goes, the legend goes is that Graham Souness drove him to the your boys, Will, Man United versus Real Madrid, 2003. Ronaldo hat-trick, standing ovation, the 1-4-3, and he was like, "I want a football club. That's what I want." And
which seems insane. That's such insane business. I want this.
I want to have that. I want to have the Galacticos. I want to own my own Galacticos. And then he was like partying with that team with Drogba and Frank and JT on the yacht before. I was like, I guess that's. But like, surely you do that for 5 or 6 years, and you go, I'm kind of bored of this. And like, so many different generations of those Chelsea players have come and gone. He's like, he's still there. Is it still a passion project? But like, he's not sports washing. He's not pretending to be anything he's not. He never interviews. Like, so it's just like, why has he done this? Like, what's been the point of this? And he's not from London either. He's Russian. Like, if you'd taken a Russian club, you'd say, yeah, boyhood club, you want to see them do well. He didn't support Chelsea. He's like, oh yeah, I'd love to own Real Madrid. Oh, but I can't, I guess. I'll buy, who's available? Chelsea in London? They're kind of a 5th place team in England. Yeah, all right. Like, there's no connection. It's all weird. And now it's going to end overnight. He's just going to sell to someone else, and
I did see, like, with the loans, like him being like, don't pay back the loans, Chelsea. Don't worry about it. Like, this is all for you. But also the club costs 3.5 billion quid. Surely that's like the club costs less plus the loan money. Like, that's included in it, I'd assume.
Yeah.
It's not like you buy the club. Loans. Yeah, it's not like you'd buy the club for 3.5 billion and then you also owe 1.5 billion in loans. Surely that's included. That's the cost of the club.
Yeah. I wouldn't say he's writing off 1.5 billion. No way.
Oh, especially this week.
We were at the end. And Abramovich bought the team and then grew up, and everything changed the story of Chelsea.
They went hard from the start and they never came back.
He was the first one who came in and revolutionised it at Chelsea.
Well, the Russian billionaire has a net worth of $15 billion.
And they didn't just win 2 leagues, they just ran away with it. They won the league by March, April, hadn't they?
But in between that, there was drinks.
And they have just clinched their 14th major trophy since the arrival of their Russian billionaire owner, Roman Abramovich.
For him, I would give everything. I would leave that pitch, in a coffin for him.
I would open an umbrella up inside my arse for this one.
It seems to me that Abramovich has closed the checkbook, realising he can't compete with Manchester City, PSG.
Abramovich is going to do what he wants to do, and it hasn't always been for the benefit of the club.
Chelsea kept winning.
He bought Shevchenko and somebody else.
But what he's done at that club should not be underestimated. But I tell you what, that man sends a message right through that club that other clubs don't do. Wow, that is ruthless.
But in between that, there was drinks.
His visa to visit the UK expired. The UK government has not renewed it, and they've declined to comment on the case.
I think we will have to thank this man up here as well, Mr. Roman Abramovich.
Surely Mr. Abramovich should no longer be able to own a football club in this country. Surely we should be looking at seizing some of his assets, including his £152 million home.
He might just pull out of English football altogether.
Really? Is it that serious?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
For me, the best owner in world football, without a doubt. Yes, he's put in an awful lot of money into the football club, but he cares and loves his club right from the under 8s to the under 9s.
And on to that great Chelsea team that no one ever recognised as a great Chelsea team. Their leader, not John Terry, Frank Lampard, implementing the Frank system, which we haven't really quite.
We'll see. We'll work it out soon. We keep our eyes peeled on him.
Yeah, once the relegation is confirmed, we'll set on the Frank system.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I think it's time, Kyle. We haven't seen it since Christmas, but Kyle, I'm going to need you to wheel out the 8-foot tall absolute board, please.
Hang on. Let me get it out.
Here
we go. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I brought all the way out from Greece. I had to get an extra bag to bring it over here, but I brought over just for this, Will, just in case you had an absolute. So hit me with it, Will.
Do you have the solid gold marker in hand?
Yeah, that actually got confiscated at the airport, but I have my marker, yeah.
That'll do.
No, you see, I'm talking facts here. I don't do if, buts and maybes. I do absolutes.
New absolute for me. Frank Lampard is not lasting the season at Everton. He will be sacked before the season is done.
Oh, do you know what, man?
The warning signs are there already.
I could see that as, one of those ones where like it's over and it's like there's no point in sacking him, but they sack him just let him know this is your fault. You're sacked.
But like if he gets them relegated, do you want him in charge to try and bring you back up? No. Like he's ruined you.
Well, he has experience in the Championship. Okay. Not the best result there at Derby in the end. But you could say, look, it was Rafa Benitez who fell out with the likes of Lucas Digne and
that's
James Rodriguez. It came out this week. Apparently, maybe last week actually. But James Rodriguez was saying that he wanted to stay, he wanted to play, but Benitez hates me. I have to go.
But sometimes as well, they're like, I don't know. This has happened at every club you've been at, mate.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a wonder. Like you'd like to give Frank the benefit of like I call him Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
Give him the Roy Keane syndrome of like just being such a good player and playing with really good players. I can't understand why you don't just kick it in the goal.
Just
you know?
do what I do. Yeah.
But Roy Keane never managed a team like Chelsea. He always managed like the Sunderland and lower teams, and just that's what, or Ireland, you know, and didn't have the same players. When Frank Lampard was at Chelsea with, like, say, a team that would win the Champions League that year, he just has obviously some kind of personal, you know, communication issue with those players that he, you know, Jorginho hated him, you know, Kante wasn't playing. People writing out Kante, you know, he's finished. Frank doesn't see it in him. So, like, it's not even just like they're not good enough because he's managed good players and didn't manage to make it work with them either. So you have that, not a good communicator, and then you're playing with worse players at Everton. Like, I mean, the biggest issue really is that Newcastle, they are flying it, man.
They're unbelievable.
They're burying both Leeds and Everton on the table.
I was looking, I think they've won 4 out of their last 5 games, drew the other one. They're amazing. Trippier is injured. Who needs him? They needed to. It was like they needed a reminder that, like, actually, a lot of us are quite good.
Yeah, and I mean, Joe Willock is now scoring goals again. Maybe he only comes live in the second half of the season. Maybe he needs to warm up like a car in a cold winter morning. He's scoring goals again. Joe Linden. There was conspiracies earlier on in the season that Joe Linden was a fake transfer under the table deals from Mike Ashley because they paid so much for him. He was that bad.
He couldn't possibly be a footballer.
Yeah, he's now scoring goals from midfield somehow. I mean, the players that they didn't even buy have started playing well. It's like 50% confidence and it's like belief in yourself seemingly. Like they're staying up. I mean, like I'll hold my hands up. I'll take the L on that one. They are staying up 100%. I'm, you know, it's too late for my absolute now, but I'm just saying I was totally wrong on that. And look, Burnley as well. Weghorst is going to do it for them. I mean, they won, but it's the way they're playing, the direction they're going versus the direction that Leeds and Everton are going.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's one of those. Look, Norwich, we love you, but no Adamita, no Ida, no party.
Yeah,
you're doomed. Watford on their third manager, who is now Roy Hodgson, who's 95, I think, tomorrow or something. I don't know. They're going down too. There's one place left. It's going to be between Burnley, Leeds, and Everton. One of them is going down. It could be Burnley, but the way it's going, I don't know. I think
never
it's
Burnley.
Be Leeds or Everton.
It's never Burnley. Burnley always do this. It's like, well, this is the year, and then they just kick it. It's like when it gets to the cold winter months, that's when they thrive. That's when they start kicking lumps out of players, and like, now let's see who really wants to stay in the league.
Yeah, and like I say, it's the way it's going. I mean, Everton lost 1-0 to Man City. The last game they played, one of those games that if you can't get up for Man City, you know what game are you going to get up for? And they're robbed, Will. And Frank Lampard has written proof from VAR itself.
Why would you send that letter? Just ignore it.
Deny.
Yeah. No, you could hit his shoulder, or not really a handball. Don't say definitely penalty.
Yeah, hey, we got that one wrong. I know it's going to cost you your job and possibly relegate. I think Everton are one of the longest teams in the top division. But
are they like the only team that have never been relegated? Is that them?
I think so. Maybe. Yeah, I think so.
It's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they've definitely spent the longest time in the top division. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, they're one of anyways. It's like 3 teams who are at the top. It's like Aston Villa. Like they had a long history of never being relegated. They obviously got relegated in the last 15 years or so. But like it's them and Everton. I think Everton are going to lose that streak, unfortunately. But let's there's an article here in the Manchester Evening News. PGMOL Managing Director Mike Riley, which I guess is what Premier League game match official lads,
lads, leader,
yeah, probably lads,
leader,
perhaps. We won't find that out. But again, this is one of your homework for the fans. Go home, find out what that means, and write into the show. He's issued a personal apology to Frank Lampard after Everton were denied a penalty in the defeat to Manchester City on Sunday. The 57-year-old referee, don't know why there's ages in there, chief contacted Lampard and Everton chairman Bill Kenwright to apologise for the decision. Referee Paul Tierney and VAR referee Chris Kavanagh dismissed the Everton appeals despite a lengthy review in which various angles showed Man City's Rodri appearing to control the ball with his arm. I mean, I'll see what Frank Lampard, he had some words. There's no doubt. There is no probably to it, he said when asked if Everton should have awarded a penalty. The decision is incredible. And that loses the opportunity to get what we deserved. That's a VAR call. That's Chris Kavanagh. I spoke to the referee and they know it's a penalty. The question is it offside? And it wasn't. That's the reason we have VAR. Wouldn't have needed more than 5 seconds to know it was a penalty. He, Kavanagh, should have either told the referee to give it or told him to go and have a look. We've lost a point because of a professional who cannot do his job right. You start searching for whys, and I can't think why. It is so incompetent to get it wrong. Pep will know. Everton fans will know. Man City fans will know. It was the clearest penalty you could give. Arm out, great. Below the sleeve, great. I was waiting for the penalty. Incompetence at its best. At worst, who knows? I'll wait for the statement of apology they do when things are wrong, but it will mean nothing.
He is so getting fired and relegated. That is the words of a man who is panicking.
That is a man, punching the air right now, as I say. As someone on the internet would say, Frank Lampard is punching the air right now with his words, with his fists. I mean, he's raging, and I guess rightly so. But this is the issue. It's like, this isn't going to be why you get relegated. It'll be all the other games. It'll be signing Dele Alli for 40 million or for free.
Oh, we didn't get a draw against the team that everyone expected us to lose against. Not the fucking points you dropped. They lost 2-0 to Norwich. We watched it.
What about that ripped game? You apart. Well, to be fair, that was, again, this is the issue, Will. That was Rafa's last game. Rafa has a part to play in this. There's no question about it. He really brought them down this path, and we said it, Frank Lampard is definitely not the guy to get you off it, but you can't lay it all at his door, I don't think.
Yeah. No, it's not his fault. Right. He can't turn it around. It's like he's never had to do this before. He's never had experience in this role. He shouldn't have been hired for it.
No. But look, it is what it is. The absence on the board. Mm-hmm. One thing I didn't see coming, Will, was Marco Bielsa just deciding that maybe we should try conceding 50 goals in 5 games. I mean, I
thought he would, because if he's sacked now, why wasn't he sacked before? This has been going on forever.
Because they conceded the most goals in a month in Premier League history. Will, that's what happened. Yeah. The position just became untenable. You can't have that. I mean, they're plummeting. They're plummeting on the table, conceding goals against Tottenham, 4-0 against Tottenham, the team that can't score. I mean, it's obviously they conceded against Man United and they played City. It was a tough run of fixtures, but still, it was. Every
time you check the score in one of their games, it was 5-0 or 4-0, and 30 minutes in.
They just became the team. We were saying that this year is quite difficult because there isn't really a team that that team is definitely going to lose. Maybe Norwich, but whoever's playing Leeds, get them in because they're going to leak goals, hemorrhage goals. And look, they've had the injuries, and you had falling out Rafinha, who I think is probably looking for the exit.
Yeah,
you lose the 15 or so goals that Patrick Bamford would have given you. It changes things. But I mean, like we say, that is the kind of the mark of how you manage a team is when things go wrong. It's easy when you have good players that's going well, but when there's fires we put out, how are you going to do it? And I guess he just really didn't know how to.
There was that thing of always playing the same way no matter what, which is like you said, it's grand when you're getting results or going at big teams, but then when you're fucking getting hammered every week, it's maybe you should change something.
Just try maybe something could do being changed. But there was a huge outpouring of support though. Did you see any of the tweets from the Leeds fans and that stuff, kind of wishing him well?
No, I don't think so. I didn't really see too much of it. I saw pictures of murals in him and stuff though, there. So they do love him at one stage, yeah. So I don't know what. Even still, it's more it's
I mean, when Wenger left, it was kind of like the same people who were being like, Wenger out, in Wenger we rust. That'd been going for maybe 5 years or so.
Yeah.
So when he left, it was like, 96 to 2006 is pretty good. I'll give you that. It wasn't quite the same. Like the Bielsa one, there was like people who were like, you made me watch football again. Like you rekindled my love of Leeds. Like you'll always have a special place in my heart, just like Abramovich and Chelsea. It was that kind of stuff, like from fans. And it's like, if they do get relegated,
he did it.
He did it, but it'd be really sad because, like, when they got back to the Premier League last year and they had all those great games, like the fans weren't there for most of us, for the majority of us. Like they got back to see this year, which has just been like disappointment after disappointment, hammering after hammering. If it was to end of them getting relegated and then like, it was good while it lasted.
Back we go.
And you missed it. Like it's almost as bad as me missing Freedom Day at home.
Yeah. You're still
almost
staying awake over that.
Well, we have our own Freedom Day coming here on the 15th.
Oh yeah? Very good.
And then all restrictions are going to be scrapped, apparently. I mean, I guess they have bigger problems over here. They're all going to get called up. So,
That's why you can't have social distancing. We need you on the boat, lads.
We need the boosty economy somehow when all the men leave. But yeah, Freedom Day on the 15th, and then Paddy's Day on the 17th. It's going to be a hell of a week. So I'm going to make up for it. Well, don't worry about that, all right?
Yeah.
But we will do the pod that week.
Yeah.
26 cup finals, right?
Yeah. And we're going to win all the cup finals too. We're not going to get hammered in any of them.
All going to be, like you say, audio honey straight into you. Do you want to? I mean, the only other news is jam packed. We've probably touched on all the news, not sufficiently. There's probably more questions than answers, I think, in this episode.
Homework for the listeners.
Yeah, homework for the fans. The other big news kind of slipped through underneath the kind of World War III stuff and Abramovich selling Chelsea is the Champions League format, which has changed. But if you recall the Super League episodes that we did, this was kind of mentioned that the whole Super League is a red herring. It's all a big conspiracy, and they're just trying to get the new Champions League format in. And look, all those owners still own the club, apart from Abramovich, but that's unrelated. So maybe it's right, because I mean, do we have the Champions League format there, Will? Do we have it?
Yeah, I got it up here. Because there was a thing where they slipped it in at the end of the Super League, and people were like, "Who has time to worry about that? Football is dead."
Yeah,
and they got away with it. So then this week, when everything was kicking off, they were like, "Oh, so here it is. It's officially announced." So there is 36 teams instead of the usual 32. All of the teams, it says on the graphic they put out that all of the teams are put into one big league table instead of group stages. Each team plays 10 games in the first phase, 5 home games and 5 away. The top 8 sides in the league will qualify automatically for the knockout stage. The teams in 9th to 24th will compete in a 2-leg playoff to secure their path to the last 16. So I don't know how it works. Like, if there's 36 teams, why is there only 10 games in the league? How does that work? How do you pick who plays who?
I don't know. I don't know if we've read that correctly. Then maybe it's
that's what it says.
Or maybe
that's what the BT Sports graphic. That's what they put up.
No,
so maybe they've left out a bullet point. But yeah, 100 additional games to the normal Champions League.
100 additional games.
Because if you think about it, you're like, you've barely scraped 4th place in the league somehow. You're like West Ham or something. You're in the Champions League. 6 group stage games. You might be able to pull that off. You might not have the biggest squad. And maybe you might get lucky in 3 of the games, and then that's enough to get you through. Now you have to win possibly 12 games to get to the knockout stage. And if you finish like last in the league part, you're going to play the first seed. So you're going to be playing fucking PSG or something in the first knockout stage. So you're fucked. Yeah. And then it's like, it's going to be so hard for smaller teams, I think.
Yeah. Oh, well, like the more games, it's always going to affect your squad. That's the thing. It's like injuries will happen, fatigue, whatever you want to call it. Like, I mean, the teams with the biggest squads usually get the first in these competitions. As it is, you add 100 more games to be played, it's only going to benefit the big teams. Like, it's pretty transparent what this is for and who's going to benefit, who's it's going to hinder.
And I mean, surely it's just going to lead to either managers playing weakened teams in like the normal league, because we've got we have Champions League again this Wednesday, like we have it every week.
Yeah.
Versus, well, we're already qualified in the Champions League, so now we play a weakened team here that we probably wouldn't have before. So it's going to make it worse across the board. It's insane.
But like I said, this was kind of flagged. I guess around this time last year, I guess it was. But you know, life goes on. We had the Euros. Remember that, Will?
Yeah.
Remember the Euros?
Oh, do I? Oh, I wish we had that every year.
We didn't mention this. I guess because it's not really real. Is in terms of just on the Chelsea thing, you saw who's put his hand up to maybe buy us.
Yeah, Mr. Conor McGregor, who, I mean, what's his net worth, do you think? Do you think it's close?
He said he's interested. He's just looking right now.
That'd be like me texting you. I'm also interested in buying Chelsea.
Yeah, and I suppose then just finally, Will, let people know why this is a pro-Russia podcast. Why we're supporting the Ruskies in this one. Because we back winners in this podcast. That's why. It's Putin 2, Ukraine 1 right now.
Let's see. I don't know about that. Ukraine are doing well. We should change to a war podcast. People would like that.
A war podcast, yeah. That would be terrible.
No, honestly, that is nonsense. Nonsense. All nonsense. But listen, I've been on that road before. Nonsense. Fucking nonsense. Why should we accept somebody talking nonsense? Like, what would you say? Just why are you talking nonsense about us? Why are you talking rubbish?